My besties. You saw this story in parts before, but now it's here in full. No more breaks, no more waiting. This is the complete version for the best experience. A billionaire's fiancé insulted an old woman, not knowing she was his mother. Every word, every shame, every mistake, it all comes together in this final part. Sit back, because this is the full story the way it should be told. Have you ever seen how pride can lift a person so high, only to throw them down in the most painful way? Nadia was beautiful, arrogant, and boastful because she was dating a billionaire. She insulted her friends, mocked her workers, and humiliated strangers. But one single day, she pushed the wrong woman out of her jewelry store, calling her a witch. Not knowing that the same woman would be waiting for her at the dinner table that night, and the unexpected happened. Nadia was the kind of woman people noticed the moment she walked into a room. She was tall, fair-skinned, always dressed in luxury clothes, with gold dangling from her neck and wrists. She carried herself like a queen. Everywhere she went, heads turned. But behind that beauty was a heart full of pride, arrogance, and a sharp tongue that spared no one. Nadia was dating Kelvin, a young billionaire whose name commanded respect in Lagos. He was tall, handsome, and wealthy beyond imagination. He spoiled Nadia with everything she desired. He bought her a brand new car, opened a jewelry collection store in her name, paid for vacations abroad, and funded her expensive lifestyle. From the moment her jewelry store opened, Nadia's pride grew wings. She believed she had finally risen above everyone else, and she made sure people felt it. One day, Nadia arrived at her store in a clean white Mercedes-Benz Kelvin had gifted her. Baba Toyin, the gate man, quickly ran to open the gate. "Good afternoon, madam," he greeted, wiping sweat from his brow. But Nadia rolled down her window, hissed and barked, "Why are you always so slow, old man? Looks like you don't value this job again. Next time you make me wait after honking, I'll replace you with someone younger. Foolish people everywhere." The poor man bowed his head in silence and whispered, "Sorry, Ma." He had children at home depending on him, so he endured the humiliation. She drove in speedily and angrily, as if she was on a racing track. Inside the shop, Nadia walked past her staff, acting as if they didn't even exist, like humans to her. She carried her proud self boastfully, like the madam she is, feeling on top of the world. She didn't answer their greetings when they greeted or welcomed her. Instead, she raised her voice. "Jerry, why is this glass display not shining? Ife, didn't I tell you to arrange those bracelets by color? Must I always shout before you people use your brains?" The staff scrambled nervously, afraid of losing their jobs. Nadia had a reputation for firing and rehiring workers carelessly. Just last week, she had dismissed a salesgirl simply because she forgot to bow properly when greeting her. Her arrogance was not reserved only for her workers. Even her childhood friends felt it. One day, Sonia, her closest friend since secondary school, came by to see her. They had once shared food during their struggling days, even sleeping on the same bed during NYSC when they couldn't afford separate rents. "Sonia, my dear friend," Nadia said mockingly, "what brings you to this kind of store? Looks like you don't even know how much one necklace costs here, right?" Sonia was confused. Looking at her, Nadia continued, "Please, don't embarrass yourself. You can't afford anything here, even if you sell your whole family properties combined." Sonia's eyes widened in disbelief. "Nadia, it's me. Your friend. Why are you talking like this? Even if I don't have the money to pay in full, does that guarantee the insults from my own best friend?" Nadia laughed and tossed her wig dramatically. "Please, shift. You can't understand this life. People like you belong in Balogan Market, not here. Kelvin has lifted me far above. Life has levels, babe. Or are you blind to not see the difference between us now? Look at me," she turned dramatically. "I'm dripping in diamonds. Look at you, still struggling. We are not the same anymore, so I can talk to you anyhow I like." Sonia's lips trembled, but she managed to whisper, "Nadia, is this truly you? The same friend who once shared food with me in the hostel, when you had nothing? Mocking me now?" But Nadia turned her face away as if the memory disgusted her. That was then. This is now. Don't remind me of those days. I have moved far beyond them. Sonia felt pained at those words and insults. Nadia, you mean you'd insult me even down to my family? This isn't you. Money has really changed you. But Nadia only smiled. And thank God it did. I refuse to remain where you people are. Sonia walked away in silence, heartbroken. But Nadia didn't care. She believed her new life made her untouchable. Even her customers were not safe from her sharp tongue. One afternoon, a young woman entered to admire a necklace. When she asked for the price and bidded casually, Nadia jumped in. If you don't have money, leave my shop. This place is not for broke people. My store is for high-class ladies, not for people like you. The woman left insulted, feeling bad, while Nadia adjusted her gold bracelet with pride. Kelvin, on the other hand, was a man of humility. Despite his wealth, he treated people with kindness and respect. Many times, he cautioned Nadia. Nadia, my love, calm down. Life is not about looking down on people. Be humble and learn to treat others with respect. But Nadia rolled her eyes. Kelvin, you don't understand. If you act humble, people will ride on you. Me, never. People must know their place when they come near me. Kelvin sighed. He loved Nadia, but deep down he feared her pride would one day destroy everything. One faithful evening, Kelvin sat her down and spoke gently. Nadia, I have something important to tell you. Next weekend, I want to officially take you to meet my mother. I want to introduce you as the woman I want to marry. Nadia's eyes widened with excitement. She jumped up, clapping her hands. Finally, so the whole Lagos will know I am your woman. This is the crowning of my life. After this, nobody will ever dare look down on me again. She paced the room, already imagining herself walking into a mansion filled with maids bowing to her. Kelvin, your mother will love me. She will know that her son has chosen the best. Kelvin smiled weakly. But just remember, respect is everything. My mother is a gentlewoman. Please, humble yourself before her. Nadia waved her hand dismissively. Leave that matter. I know how to behave. Don't worry. But inside her heart, Nadia had no intention of changing. To her, this introduction was simply another stage to display her pride and prove her superiority. The week passed quickly. Nadia could hardly wait for the big day. She told anyone who cared to listen that her billionaire boyfriend was finally going to introduce her to his mother. At the shop, she bragged openly. Very soon, I will no longer just be Madame Nadia, the jewelry owner. I will be Madame Kelvin, wife of a billionaire. Do you people know what that means, huh? Her staff forced smiles, but in their hearts, they pitied her arrogance. Ife, the salesgirl, whispered to Jerry later, "This madam will put herself in trouble one day. She talks as if the world belongs to her." Jerry only moved his shoulders. "Very proud and pompous, my dear. Let her continue. God is watching, and he sees the heart of all men." On the morning of the big introduction, Nadia woke up before sunrise. She literally soaked herself in perfume, spent hours at the salon, and wore a fitted gown that sparkled with crystals. Her long, artificial nails were painted gold, and she crowned it all with one of the finest wigs money could buy. But she still wanted something more. She wanted the perfect necklace for the occasion, something that would scream wealth and class the moment she walked into Kelvin's mother's house. So she headed straight to her jewelry shop. The moment she entered, her sharp voice filled the room. "Why is this place looking dull? Jerry, clean those glasses properly. F.A., bring out all the diamond sets now. I don't have time for nonsense today." Her staff scattered like frightened birds, rushing to obey. While Nadia was moving around, the bell above the shop door rang. An elderly woman stepped in, wearing a neat iro and booba and tying a simple head tie. She looked elegant, her face old and wrinkled, but she was smiling kindly. "Good morning," the woman greeted warmly. Ife approached her politely. "Good morning, Ma. How can I help you?" The woman smiled. "My dear, I'm looking for something special. I want to buy a gift for an important dinner tonight." "Of course, Ma," Ife said, leading her to the glass displays. "We have many lovely pieces you will like." The woman's eyes lit up as she admired a necklace. She touched it gently and whispered, This would be perfect. But before she could even finish, Nadia's heels clicked loudly across the floor as she came over. "What is going on here?" she barked. "Who allowed this woman to touch that necklace?" Ife froze. "Madame, she just wanted to—" The poor girl wanted to explain. "Shut up!" Nadia shouted, looking angrily at the elderly woman. "Madame, do you even know how much this costs? Can you afford it? Please don't come here and waste my time." The shop went silent. Even Baba Toyin at the gate turned his head inside, curious at the commotion. The old woman smiled faintly, trying to remain polite. "My daughter, I was only admiring it." "How much is it?" she asked. Nadia folded her arms, eyeing her from head to toe. Then she let out a loud, mocking laugh. "Ah, look at this wrinkled skin. You look like one village witch. Why would you walk in here and touch my collections with those evil-looking hands? And even if I dash you, who will even take you seriously wearing diamonds? Madam, please leave my shop. I don't want people like you lowering the class of this place." Efe gasped quietly. "Ma, please." But Nadia was not done. She turned to Ife sharply. "Will you shut your dirty, stinking mouth before I shut it for you? You this poor thing?" Her voice rose even higher, then she turned to face the elderly woman again. "In fact, let me say it clearly. No one would ever be comfortable around an old witch like you. You look disgusting. I wonder where you even come from. For me," she paused and stepped closer, pointing at the old woman cruelly, "if you were my mother, or by any chance I had you even as a mother-in-law, I'll disown you or finish you with my own hands. A woman like you looks old and disgusting. Please, get out before you spoil my mood today." The elderly woman's eyes dimmed with hurt by those words. What had she done, she thought? She had only walked in here to buy an item like any normal customer would. But she was given the worst insults of her entire life. She did not answer back. She only adjusted her wrapper slowly and turned toward the door. Nadia, in her arrogance, pushed her shoulder. "Move faster, old witch, before I call security to throw you out." The woman staggered slightly, but steadied herself with dignity. She walked out of the shop without another word. Inside, the staff stood frozen, their hearts pounded. They could not believe what they had just witnessed. But Nadia dusted her hands as if she had done something great. "Everybody back to work. I don't want poor-looking people entering my shop again. This is a place for class, not for beggars." She turned back to the mirror and admired herself, smiling proudly at her reflection, unaware what she had just started. That evening, far away in Ikoyi, Kelvin's mother sat quietly in her mansion. She had returned home feeling heartbroken after a bad experience she had earlier that day where she went. As her maids arranged the dining table, set the flowers, and prepared all the meals, she forced herself to smile, not wanting to spoil her son's joy. "Madam, are you okay?" one of the maids asked carefully. She sighed deeply. "I am fine. Today is for my son. I will not let anything spoil it." But in her heart, pain burned like fire. As the evening approached, the sky over Lagos was painted in streaks of orange and purple as the sun set slowly behind the horizon. And inside the vast mansion in Ikoyi, the elderly woman walked slowly around the dining hall, inspecting every detail. The long mahogany table was finally set with sparkling plates, polished silverware, and crystal glasses that glittered under the chandelier. The aroma of freshly cooked jollof rice, goat meat pepper soup, and pounded yam with egusi filled the mansion. Her maids still moved about quietly, adjusting flowers and straightening napkins. She had given instructions earlier that everything must be perfect, because tonight her son was bringing home the woman he planned to marry. On the outside, everything looked beautiful, but on the inside, her heart was still heavy. Yet she had kept silent when Kelvin came to check on her earlier. She forced a smile and said nothing. She didn't want to spoil his joy. She only prayed silently. "God, give me strength tonight. Let me not embarrass my son." Meanwhile, across town, Nadia's house was buzzing with excitement. She sat before her mirror, admiring herself. She had changed into the long, fitted gown that sparkled under the light. Diamonds glittered around her neck and on her wrists. Her wig was styled perfectly, her makeup looked sharp, and her perfume smelled strong enough to announce her presence before she even entered a room. She turned her head from side to side, smiling at her reflection. This is it. Tonight I will enter that mansion not just as Kelvin's girlfriend, but as his future wife. By tomorrow, everybody will know my level. No one can match me anymore. Just then, her driver knocked gently on the door. Madam, Ogre Kelvin is here. Nadia stood up proudly, grabbing her designer purse. She walked down the staircase slowly, like a queen descending her throne. Kelvin was waiting at the bottom, dressed in a neat black suit, looking calm and graceful. When he saw her, he smiled faintly. Nadia, you look glamorous. She twirled lightly, raising her chin. Of course I do. Tonight is my night, darling. After today, your mother will adore me. She will know that her son has chosen the very best. Kelvin's smile faded a little. He reached for her hand. Nadia, please, just remember what I told you. My mother is everything to me. Show her respect no matter what. Even if she says something you don't like, just overlook it. Nadia rolled her eyes and patted his hand carelessly again. Relax, Kelvin. You worry too much. I know how to behave. Trust me, your mother will be proud to have me as a daughter-in-law. Kelvin sighed. He wanted to believe her, but deep inside, he felt uneasy and hoped she kept her word. Soon they were seated in Kelvin's luxury car, driving toward Ikoyi. As they drove, Nadia kept rehearsing her smiles, practicing how she would greet Kelvin's mother. She imagined walking into the mansion, seeing maids bow to her, and watching his mother's eyes widen at her beauty. Kelvin, she said suddenly, what do you think your mother will give us tonight? Maybe she has already prepared a special gift for me. Kelvin laughed lightly. My mother is not the gift type, Nadia. She is after values, respect, and kindness. Nadia waved her hand. Leave all that talk. I know she will love me. Who wouldn't? Kelvin only stared out the window and didn't want to press further. Back at the mansion, Kelvin's mother dressed quietly in her room. She wore a gold lace wrapper and blouse with simple jewelry, elegant but modest. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled faintly. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Kelvin. Hey, Mom, we are on our way, he said cheerfully. Her heart skipped. She forced her voice to sound bright. All right, son. We are ready for you. As she ended the call, she inhaled deeply, bracing herself. When the car finally pulled into the grand compound, Nadia stepped out smiling warmly, her gown flowing on the ground, her diamonds glistered under the lights. She looked around the mansion and smiled proudly. So this is it, perfect. She thought to herself, I'll fit in here easily. Kelvin looked at her and asked calmly and politely like a gentleman. Are you ready? Nadia nodded quietly, holding his hand as they walked toward the door. Inside, the maid stood at attention. The dining table glowed under the chandelier, and seated in the living room, waiting calmly, was an elderly woman. Immediately they drew closer. Kelvin was already smiling proudly. He held Nadia's hand gently and spoke with joy. And here we're, with the woman I want to marry, the one I've been telling you about, and the very one after my heart. Nadia was already blushing from the compliments and was now walking proudly toward the elderly woman. Gently, the elderly woman looked up, smiling warmly at them. But the moment Nadia's eyes fell on her and she looked at her closely, her steps slowed, she froze. Her heart skipped, her face turned pale. There, seated with calm dignity, was the same elderly woman she had insulted, humiliated, and pushed out of her store that very morning. The air grew heavy, silence hung like a sword in the room. Even Kelvin noticed the sudden change in Nadia's face. He looked at her curiously, then at the old woman, then back at her. Something was wrong, very wrong. Nadia? Are you all right? He asked, curious. The room went cold. Nadia's legs trembled as she continuously stared at the elderly woman. Her breath caught in her throat. The elderly mother lifted her eyes slowly and locked them into Nadia's. She was as well shocked and surprised to see Nadia too. Her heart sank and she gasped quietly. It was her, the same arrogant young woman from the jewelry store in the morning. The silence was deadly silent. The only sound in the room was the ticking of the golden wall clock. Nadia's palms grew sweaty. She forced a fake smile, but the words slipped from her mouth before she could stop them. "What is this old witch doing here?" Kelvin froze. He blinked, unsure he heard correctly. "What did you just say?" he asked. Nadia swallowed hard and looked around, annoyed. "I said, what is this old, wrinkled woman doing here, sitting in your mother's living room?" Kelvin's heart stopped. He dropped her hand instantly. His face twisted in shock and anger. "Nadia, are you okay? This is my mother, my own mother." Nadia's mouth fell open, her eyes widened. She gasped, covering her lips with her palm. "What? This is your mother?" "Yes," Kelvin snapped. His voice echoed like thunder. "This is the woman who gave me life, the woman I honor above everyone else, and you dare insult her in my presence?" Nadia staggered backward. Her knees became weak. She shook her head violently, as though trying to wake up from a nightmare. Kelvin's mother stood up slowly. Her wrapper flowed around her feet. Well, funny how life connects people together in mysterious ways," she said calmly. "I still can't believe you found your way into my house after what you did in the morning." Nadia's heart skipped, and she became fast. She didn't utter a word. Kelvin seemed totally confused. "Mom, what's happening?" "Do you guys know each other?" he asked, curious. The elderly woman spoke, but her eyes never left Nadia's face. "Yes, son. In fact, this is why my spirit was heavy today. Do you know what happened this morning? I went to a jewelry store, hoping to buy a gift for you and your fiancé. I wanted to surprise you, to show love before she even entered this house. But to my greatest shock, the very woman you brought to me tonight is the same one who humiliated me. She called me names, called me an old witch. She mocked my wrinkles and pushed me out like a beggar, and all I wanted was to buy a simple gift. For you too." Her voice broke. She blinked back, the tears of the painful and humiliating memory threatening to fall. "But I endured it. I said nothing. I came home and prepared for this dinner, telling myself I would not spoil your joy. But God has revealed the truth by himself tonight." The room went still. Kelvin turned slowly, his eyes blazed with fury as they landed on Nadia. "Is this true?" His voice was low but sharp, like a blade. Nadia's whole body shook. She stammered, "Kelvin, please, I didn't know she was your mother. If I had known, I would never—" "Shut up," Kelvin's voice echoed. He slammed his fist on the table, and the plates shook violently. "You insulted an elderly woman just because you thought she was a stranger. You mocked her, you pushed her, you called her names, and now you stand here in the same woman's house and still call her a witch. Nadia, what kind of heart do you have?" Nadia fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her face as she broke, begging, "Kelvin, please, forgive me. I was angry. I didn't mean—" But Kelvin's face was hard like stone. "You disgust me. I warned you, Nadia. Didn't I? I told you your pride would destroy things one day. And now, look, the very first time you met my mother, you disgraced her. You disgraced me. Do you realize what you have done?" Nadia sobbed louder, clutching her chest. "Please, Kelvin, I'm sorry." But he stepped back from her, breathing heavily now as he shook his head in disbelief. His mother placed a hand on his shoulder and spoke firmly, but sadly. "Son, a woman who cannot respect elders, who cannot treat people with kindness, is not ready for marriage. And she has just proved it to you the same way she did to me." Kelvin closed his eyes tightly. "Baitai." The weight of his mother's words sank deep into his soul. Nadia looked from mother to son, her heart shattered. This was not how she imagined tonight. She had dressed like a queen, hoping to be celebrated. Instead, she stood exposed, broken, and ashamed. Never in her wildest dreams did she imagine that the same woman she had mocked in the morning would appear in the evening to be the mother of the man she planned to marry. Her arrogance had betrayed her. Her pride had destroyed her. And in that moment, Nadia realized she had lost everything, before it even began. This is what happens when pride blinds the eyes and arrogance takes the place of kindness. One moment of disrespect can destroy years of blessings and close doors you never knew were open for you. So, what do you think will happen next? Will Kelvin forgive Nadia, or has she already lost her chance forever? Will his mother show mercy and accept her, or will she stand firmly against it? And what about the jewelry store, the car, the life of luxury Kelvin gave her? Will he take it all back? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and tell us if you'd like to see part 2 of the story where all these answers will be revealed. And if you enjoyed this, don't just keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to Roots of the African Tales for more real-life stories like this one. Nadia's pride has already brought her face to face with shame. But where will it lead her next? Will she truly humble herself and change, or is she secretly planning something far more dangerous? Let's find out together. The room was still shaking from the echo of Kelvin's fist on the table. Plates rattled, glasses trembled, but nothing shook more than Nadia's heart. She was on her knees, her tears streaming freely, her makeup running down her cheeks. "Kelvin, please," she cried, clutching at his trousers desperately. "Don't leave me like this. Don't let me go. I will change. I promise. Just give me one more chance." Her sobs filled the grand living room, but Kelvin's eyes were hard. He stood over her, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling like waves in a storm. His mind was torn. He loved this woman with passion, but in front of him stood the other woman he loved most in the world. His mother. Kelvin's mother watched silently, her wrinkled hands clasped tightly together. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried the pain of generations. Slowly she spoke, her voice soft but filled with weight. "Nadia," she said firmly, "I cannot trust you. You are too proud, too arrogant. My son may love you now, but a woman like you will destroy his life one day. You have shown your heart already, and I cannot close my eyes to it." Nadia's lips trembled. She turned to the older woman, crawling forward on her knees. "Mama, please, forgive me. I didn't know it was you. I was foolish, I was blinded. But I swear before God I will change. Just give me one chance, only one. Don't take Kelvin away from me. Don't destroy my life." But Kelvin's mother did not flinch. Her gaze remained steady. "Child, you cannot beg me with words when your heart is filled with pride. I have lived long enough to know that the proud only bow when they are caught. And once the eyes of others turn away, they rise back in arrogance. You might hurt my son, and that I cannot allow." Her words cut Nadia deeper than a knife. She beat her chest with her fists, wailing loudly. "No, please, don't say that. Kelvin, look at me. You know I love you. You know I cannot live without you. I will be better, for you, for your mother, for our future. Don't let me go. Don't let me die." Kelvin's throat tightened, his eyes filled with tears. He looked at his mother, then at the woman on the floor clinging to his legs. His heart was divided in two. One side burned with love for Nadia, the other side bled with loyalty to the woman who raised him. He whispered, almost choking on his words, "God, what do I do?" The air was heavy, every second stretching like eternity. The maids at the doorway froze, not daring to breathe. Even the ticking of the golden wall clock sounded louder, like judgment. For the first time in his life, Kelvin stood at a crossroad no man could envy, to choose between the woman he loved and the mother who gave him life. And in that moment, his tears fell. Kelvin's tears slid down his cheeks, but his mother saw more than tears. She saw the storm inside him. She knew her son's heart was trapped between love and loyalty, and it tore her soul apart to watch him suffer. She sighed deeply, her chest rising with the weight of generations. Then, with calm dignity, she placed her hand on Kelvin's shoulder. "My son," she whispered gently, "come with me. Let us speak alone." Kelvin nodded weakly. He pulled himself from Nadia's desperate grip and followed his mother into the hallway. The maids exchanged glances, their hearts pounding at what might happen next. Inside the quiet hallway, Kelvin's mother turned to him. Her eyes glistened with tears she had fought hard to hide. She cupped his face with her old hands. "Kelvin, my child," she said softly, "I know you love her. I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it in your pain, and I do not want to be the reason for your heartbreak. Kelvin blinked, his lips trembling. "Mama, I don't know what to do. I love you more than anything, but I also love her. I don't want to lose either of you." His mother shook her head slowly. "Love is not blind, my son. Love must have wisdom. This woman you brought into my house today, she is proud, she is arrogant, and pride will destroy any home it enters." Kelvin's chest tightened. "So, what do I do?" She paused, her words heavy with both warning and mercy. "Give her one chance, only one. Let her prove herself. But listen to me carefully, Kelvin. Be alert. Do not trust blindly. Watch her actions, not her tears. For the proud may kneel, but their heart often remains standing." Kelvin swallowed hard, tears threatening again. He wanted to believe Nadia could change. He wanted to believe love was stronger than pride. His mother kissed his forehead tenderly. "I pray I am wrong, my son. But if I am right, then may God open your eyes before it is too late." They walked back into the living room. Nadia was still on her knees, her makeup ruined, her hands trembling. The moment she saw Kelvin, she crawled forward quickly, holding his leg again. "Kelvin, please, don't leave me. I will change, I swear. I will respect your mother. I will respect everyone. Just don't throw me away." Kelvin looked down at her, his jaw tight, his heart bleeding. His voice came out low but sharp. "You have one chance, Nadia. Just one. Don't ever think you will get away every time. If you fail again, if you ever disrespect my mother or anyone else, that will be the end of us. Do you understand?" "Yes," Nadia cried, hugging him tightly. Thank you. I promise I will change myself for you. I will be better. I will never hurt you again." She wept against his chest. Kelvin held her weakly, torn between hope and doubt. But in her heart, Nadia whispered something no one could hear. "I will never forget this humiliation. She made me kneel. She will pay." And with that, the real game began. That night, after Kelvin dropped her back at her apartment, Nadia stood before her mirror in silence. The diamonds around her neck still sparkled, but her eyes burned like fire. She tore off her wig, threw her purse on the floor, and hissed bitterly. "That old woman," she spat, pacing the room like a caged lioness. "She made me kneel. Me, Nadia. She made me cry, beg, humiliate myself in front of Kelvin. She thinks she has won? No, never. I will show her that I am not a woman to be mocked." Her fists clenched, her voice lowered into a vow. "I will take revenge, but not with shouting, not with fighting. No. I will smile, I will pretend. And slowly I will turn her own son against her. That will be my sweetest victory." The next morning, Nadia transformed herself. She wore a soft dress, tied her hair back simply, and walked into Kelvin's mansion with a fake, gentle smile. She greeted the maids politely, even helping one of them carry a tray. "Good morning, Mama," she said sweetly, bowing slightly before Kelvin's mother. "I hope you slept well. Please forgive me for the past. I want to be your daughter, not your enemy." Kelvin's mother raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Her spirit warned her this sweetness was sugar-coated. Yet for Kelvin's sake, she accepted the greetings with a faint nod. Kelvin, however, was overjoyed. His heart swelled as he saw Nadia being humble. He hugged her tightly. "This is the woman I know. This is my love. Thank you for changing." Nadia smiled against his chest, but her eyes glowed with secret fire. The first test came during a family lunch 2 days later. Kelvin had invited his cousin and a few close relatives. The dining table was heavy with food. Nadia, pretending to be graceful, volunteered to serve dishes. She leaned close to one maid and hissed under her breath, "Stupid girl, move faster before I slap you in front of everyone." The maid's hands trembled, but Nadia's smile never faded. She carried a bowl of rice to the table like an angel. But when one of the relatives complained about the late service, Nadia gasped dramatically. "Ah, Mama, please don't be too harsh on the staff. I know you told them to rush, but they are trying their best." Kelvin's cousin looked surprised. Kelvin frowned slightly and turned to his mother. "Mum, did you shout at them again?" His mother's eyes widened. "What? I never said anything." But Nadia touched Kelvin's arm quickly, tears filling her eyes. "Please, don't blame her. I understand. She's only worried the food would be late. It's not her fault." The table fell silent. Kelvin looked at his mother suspiciously. For the first time, a seed of doubt entered his heart, and Nadia smiled secretly, sipping her wine. The game had begun. A week later, Kelvin prepared for an important business dinner. One of his wealthy associates from abroad was flying into Lagos, and the gathering was meant to strengthen their partnership. Invitations were sent to all his close allies and family friends. Kelvin reminded everyone in the house how critical it was. The morning of the event, Nadia sat in the living room, painting her nails lazily while Kelvin's mother supervised the staff. She had double-checked everything: the flowers, the chairs, the catering, even the guest list. By evening, the mansion glowed with lights. Cars rolled into the compound, and guests filled the hall. Kelvin, dressed in a tailored suit, moved confidently among them. Nadia stood proudly by his side, dazzling in a golden gown. But as the night went on, Kelvin noticed someone was missing. "Where is Chief Oho?" he muttered, glancing around the room. He confirmed his attendance. Nadia's lips curled faintly. She tilted her head with mock innocence. "Darling, maybe the invitation never reached him." Kelvin frowned. "Impossible. My mother said she handled the guest list herself." Nadia sighed softly, her voice dripping with concern. Maybe Mama misplaced it? You know she has been stressed lately. Please don't be angry with her. It could happen to anyone." Kelvin's eyes narrowed slightly. He shook his head. "But my mother is careful. She never misses details like this." Nadia touched his arm gently, her eyes filling with fake sadness. "Please, Kelvin, don't be upset. I don't want there to be tension tonight. Maybe it was a mistake. But promise me you won't scold Mama too much. She is only human." Kelvin breathed deeply, but his mind began to twist. Could his mother really have forgotten? It didn't sound like her, but Nadia's words replayed in his mind, soft yet persuasive. Later that night, when the last guest had left, Kelvin turned to his mother. His voice carried a sharp edge. "Mom, why didn't you send Chief Oho his invitation?" His mother looked shocked. "What? I did, Kelvin. I personally checked it. Perhaps there was a delay with the courier." Kelvin shook his head slowly, disappointment clouding his face. "Mom, this is important to me. I can't afford mistakes like this." The older woman's lips trembled. "My son, I would never let you down. Please believe me." But before she could say more, Nadia slipped her hand into Kelvin's and whispered, "Darling, let it go. Mama is already feeling guilty. Please don't make her cry." Kelvin looked at Nadia's pleading eyes, then back at his mother. His heart tilted again, suspicion settling where trust once lived. The night ended coldly. Kelvin's mother sat alone in her room, tears rolling down her face. For the first time, she felt the bond with her son begin to crack. And in the next room, Nadia smiled at her reflection, whispering, "One more step, closer to victory." The days that followed were uneasy inside Kelvin's mansion. His mother's heart grew heavier, while Nadia's smile grew wider. Every step she took was calculated, every word chosen like poison wrapped in honey. One evening, Kelvin returned from a board meeting, his face tired but glowing with pride. "The company is expanding into Abuja," he announced. "I want to start distributing some shares to people I trust." Nadia's eyes lit up instantly. "Shares," she repeated softly, her mind racing. "Darling, that's wonderful. Maybe I could help too. I can handle some of your investments. It will make me feel closer to your world." Kelvin smiled faintly but hesitated. "Nadia, it's not something small. Running shares means responsibility. It's not just about owning wealth, it's about protecting it." At that very moment, his mother entered the room quietly. She had overheard the last words. Her voice was calm but firm. "Kelvin, listen to me. Be careful where you place your trust. Business shares are not gifts of love. They are weapons in the wrong hands." Nadia's heart skipped, but her face stayed soft. She clutched Kelvin's arm and whispered, "Mama doesn't want me to grow, can't you see? She thinks I am not capable. She always sees me as a threat." Kelvin turned to his mother, his brows furrowing. "Mama, why would you say that? Nadia is only asking to help." The older woman's eyes pleaded, "Because I know this world, Kelvin. I have lived long enough to see how greed destroys families. Protect yourself, protect your legacy." But Nadia burst into tears suddenly, her sobs sharp and loud. "You see? She hates me. No matter how I try, I can never be good enough for her. She will never accept me. Maybe I should just leave so you and your mother can live happily without me." Kelvin's chest tightened as he held her trembling shoulders. "Nadia, stop, please. Don't talk like that." He turned back to his mother, his voice sharper now. "Mama, why can't you trust her? She has changed. She loves me. Why do you always see the worst in her?" His mother shook her head slowly, tears brimming. "Kelvin, open your eyes. Love without wisdom is blindness. Do not hand your empire to someone who has not yet proved her character." But her words only deepened Kelvin's frustration. He raised his voice for the first time at her. "Enough, Mama. You don't want me to be happy. You keep trying to drive her away from me. But I have decided Nadia will have a share, and nothing will change my mind." The decision hit his mother like a hammer. Her lips quivered, her heart breaking into pieces. She watched her son sign over shares of his empire into Nadia's name, his pen scratching across the paper like thunder. Nadia kissed his cheek in gratitude, her tears still glistening, but behind her smile victory was dancing. From the moment Kelvin signed those shares over, Nadia's pride soared higher than the clouds. She walked around the mansion like a queen crowned by heaven itself. Servants bowed, guests admired, and she no longer bothered to hide her arrogance. Kelvin, blinded by love, poured even more treasures at her feet. A brand new luxury car arrived in the compound within days. Diamonds, gold, designer gowns, anything Nadia pointed at, Kelvin bought without hesitation. "Darling," he told her one evening, handing her the keys to a sleek Range Rover, "you deserve everything. You've stood by me, you've changed. This is my way of showing you my trust." Nadia hugged him tightly, her tears flowing, but deep inside, her heart whispered cruelly, "Yes, trust me more, my love. Trust me until you cannot see anything else but me." While Nadia flourished, Kelvin's mother withered. Alone in her room, she often sat by the window, staring at the moon, with tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. She prayed silently. "Oh Lord, please open my son's eyes. Show him the truth before it is too late. Don't let this woman destroy him." But the more she prayed, the further Kelvin drifted. Nadia had mastered the art of sugar-coated words. In front of him, she appeared humble, respectful, even pious. She would kneel to greet him, laugh softly when his mother entered, and call her Mama with fake sweetness. Yet the moment Kelvin left the room, her eyes turned cold as stone. The maids knew the truth but dared not speak. They only whispered among themselves, pitying their madam who was slowly being cut out of her own son's heart. One evening, unable to hold the pain anymore, Kelvin's mother entered his study. He was seated at his desk, Nadia beside him flipping through jewelry magazines. "Kelvin, my son," she began, her voice trembling but steady. "Please listen to me, I beg you. This path you are walking is dangerous. Nadia is not who you think she is. Open your eyes before you lose everything." Kelvin stiffened, anger flashing in his eyes. "Mama, not again. Please, I have had enough of this. Why can't you let us be happy?" His mother's tears fell. She clasped her hands together desperately. "Because I love you, my child. I cannot watch you destroy yourself. You are my only son. Listen to me." But Kelvin cut her off sharply, his voice rising like thunder. "Stop poisoning my mind. Nadia is my wife-to-be. She is the woman I have chosen. Accept her or stay away from me." The words sliced through her heart like a knife. She staggered back, her lips trembling, her eyes wide in shock. For the first time in his life, her son had shouted at her, all because of another woman. In the corner, Nadia lowered her face to hide her smirk. She had won another battle, and his mother, broken and humiliated, sank slowly into a chair, whispering through her tears, "Oh God, my son is slipping away from me." Weeks passed, and Kelvin decided to host a lavish dinner for his closest friends and business partners. The mansion buzzed with activity. Expensive cars lined the driveway, chefs hurried in and out of the kitchen, and the dining hall glittered with crystal glasses and golden cutlery. It was meant to be a night of elegance, a display of wealth and status. "Mama," Kelvin said that morning, his tone polite but firm, "I want you to supervise the chefs. You know how I like everything perfect." Please guide them." His mother smiled faintly, nodding. "Of course, my son. I will do my best." Nadia stood nearby, her lips pressed into a thin smile. Inside, her heart whispered, "Perfect. Tonight, I will finish her." Throughout the day, Kelvin's mother worked tirelessly, instructing the chefs with care. She checked the spices, tasted the soup, and ensured every dish carried the family's standard of excellence. The aroma of pepper soup, fried rice, and roasted chicken filled the mansion. Everything was flawless. But as evening fell and the guests began to arrive, Nadia slipped quietly into the kitchen. She waited until Kelvin's mother stepped out to check the dining hall. Then, with swift hands, she lifted the lid of the soup pot and poured in a handful of salt. Not once, but twice. She stirred quickly, her eyes shining with wicked satisfaction. "No one will suspect me," she whispered, "and when they suffer, all eyes will blame her." The dinner began with laughter and clinking glasses. Kelvin's rich friends praised the beauty of the mansion, admiring the gold chandeliers and polished marble floors. Nadia floated among them like a goddess, her gown shimmering under the lights. Kelvin's mother, tired but content, sat quietly, grateful that everything seemed to be in order. But soon the first cough was heard, then another. A guest touched his throat, his face twisting. Another dropped his spoon, clutching his stomach. Panic spread quickly across the table. "What is happening?" one of the businessmen groaned, pushing his plate away. "The food, it tastes strange." Within minutes, several guests were rushed out, holding their stomachs in agony. Cars screeched out of the compound, heading to the hospital. The laughter and glamour of the night dissolved into chaos. Kelvin's face turned red with fury. He slammed his hand on the table. "What is this embarrassment? My friends are sick, my reputation ruined." All eyes turned to his mother. After all, she had supervised the food. Nadia gasped dramatically, covering her mouth. "Oh no, Mama, how could this happen? You were with the chefs all day. Did you add too much salt by mistake?" Kelvin's head snapped toward his mother. "Mama, is this true? How could you let this happen?" His mother's lips parted in shock. "No, my son. I swear by God, I checked everything. I tasted it." The food was perfect. But her words fell on deaf ears. Kelvin's pride had been wounded in front of his wealthy friends. His eyes blazed with humiliation and anger, and in the corner, Nadia lowered her gaze to hide her wicked smile. The dining hall still smelled of spilt pepper soup and roasted chicken, but the glamour of the evening was gone. Kelvin paced back and forth like a lion in a cage, his fists clenched, his chest heaving with fury. His friends had been rushed to the hospital, and the shame of their sickness burned through his veins. His mother stood near the wall, her hands trembling, her eyes wide with pain. "My son," she whispered, "please believe me. I would never do this to you. I watched the food carefully. Someone tampered with it after I left the kitchen." But Kelvin's face twisted with rage. He pointed a finger at her, his voice sharp like thunder. "Enough excuses, Mama. Do you know how humiliated I am tonight? My name, my reputation, dragged into the mud because of you." She staggered back, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. "Kelvin, I swear before God I am innocent. Please, my child, don't turn against me." Nadia stepped forward slowly, her face painted with false sorrow. "Darling, please, calm down. Don't be too harsh on Mama. She is old. Mistakes happen." Her words, gentle as honey, stung sharper than a blade. Kelvin's eyes filled with disappointment. He slammed his palm on the table. "No, this is the last straw. I cannot allow this anymore. Mama, you have brought me shame again and again. From today, you will no longer live here." The words crashed into the room like a storm. His mother gasped, her legs shaking. "Kelvin, no. You cannot mean this. I am your mother. Where will I go?" Kelvin's voice was cold, final. "There is an old people's home in Ikoyi. From tonight, you will stay there. The drivers will take you. You can no longer live under my roof." She fell to her knees, clutching his feet just as Nadia once had. "My son, please, don't do this. Open your eyes. I beg you, listen to me. That woman is deceiving you. She will destroy everything you have worked for." But Kelvin pulled his legs away, his jaw tight. "Enough. My decision is final. You will leave this house tonight." The maids wept silently in the background, unable to bear the sight of their madam being thrown away by her only child. Nadia stood in the corner, her head bowed, her shoulders trembling as if she too was crying. But behind her lowered lashes, her lips curved into a slow, satisfied smile. She had won. She had taken everything, Kelvin's trust, his heart, his wealth, and turned him against the very woman who gave him life. Kelvin's mother rose weakly, her body heavy with grief. With one last look at her son, she whispered, "May God protect you, my child. One day you will see the truth." She walked out slowly, her steps echoing like thunder in the silent mansion. And Nadia, standing in the shadows, whispered to herself, "At last, victory." She thought she had won, but pride never ends in triumph. Pride is only the beginning of downfall. And life was watching, waiting for its moment. So what do you think? Will Kelvin ever open his eyes and see Nadia's true colors? Will his mother's prayers be answered before it's too late? Or will Nadia's pride finally destroy everything she has touched? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't just keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to Roots of the African Tales for more powerful and emotional stories like this one. Have you ever seen how quickly the highest mountain can crumble into the deepest valley? Nadia thought she had won everything. The man, the money, the mansion. She had thrown out the only woman who truly loved Kelvin, believing her victory was complete. But what she didn't know was that when you plant seeds of evil, you will harvest a storm. And that storm was coming faster than she could imagine. The gates of Sunset Haven, old people's home, closed behind Kelvin's mother with a sound that echoed like the door of a tomb. She stood in the dimly lit hallway, clutching a single bag containing all her worldly possessions. The smell of disinfectant mixed with age and sadness filled her nostrils. "Welcome to your new home," said Sister Grace, the nurse on duty, her voice mechanical and without warmth. "Room 14 is yours. Dinner is at 6, lights out at 9. Rules are on the wall." Kelvin's mother nodded weakly, her heart breaking with every step down the narrow corridor. Behind the doors, she could hear the sounds of forgotten souls, some crying, others muttering to themselves, many sitting in complete silence. This was where children sent their parents to die slowly, away from sight, away from conscience. Her room was small and cold, a single bed, a wooden chair, and a window that looked out to nothing but a brick wall. She placed her bag on the bed and sat down heavily, tears flowing like a river that had been held back too long. "Oh God," she whispered into the empty room. "What have I done wrong to deserve this? I loved my son more than my own life. And now I am here, thrown away like garbage." Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Nadia stood before the gold-framed mirror in what was once the mother's bedroom. She had immediately claimed it as her dressing room, filling it with designer clothes and expensive jewelry. Her reflection smiled back at her, beautiful and victorious. "Finally," she breathed, adjusting her diamond necklace, "the old witch is gone. Now Kelvin belongs to me completely." She walked downstairs where Kelvin sat slumped in his leather chair, staring at the floor. His face was heavy with guilt and confusion. Nadia approached him with fake tears glistening in her eyes. "Darling," she whispered softly, "I know tonight was hard for you, but please don't blame yourself. You did what was necessary. Your mother, she was hurting you, hurting us. Sometimes love means making difficult choices." Kelvin looked up at her, his eyes searching her face. "But Nadia, she raised me. She sacrificed everything for me. How could I—" "Shh," Nadia interrupted, kneeling beside his chair and taking his hands. "You are too kind, too pure. That's why I love you, but sometimes kindness can be weakness. Your mother was holding you back, poisoning your mind against me. Now we can finally be happy, just the two of us." Her words were honey mixed with poison, sweet to the taste, but deadly to the soul. Kelvin's broken heart clung to her comfort like a drowning man clutching driftwood. "You're right," he whispered, allowing her to embrace him. "We can finally be at peace." Nadia smiled against his chest, but her eyes burned with cold satisfaction. The first part of her plan was complete. The days that followed were like a dream for Nadia and a nightmare for Kelvin's mother. While Nadia enjoyed breakfast in bed, spa treatments, and shopping sprees, the elderly woman struggled to adapt to life among strangers who had also been discarded by their families. At Sunset Haven, Kelvin's mother found herself surrounded by people whose minds had been broken by years of loneliness. Mrs. Johnson, her roommate, talked to invisible children all day. Mr. Abdul screamed at night, reliving battles from wars that ended decades ago. And Sister Mary constantly accused everyone of stealing her non-existent jewelry. "You there, new woman?" Sister Mary cornered her one morning, her eyes wild and accusing. "You took my golden bracelet, didn't you? Give it back or I'll report you to the police." "Sister Mary, I didn't take anything," Kelvin's mother replied gently, but the old woman grabbed her arm roughly. "Liar! Thief! All of you are thieves here!" she screamed, attracting the attention of other residents who began to gather around, some joining in the accusations, others just staring blankly. The nurses rarely intervened unless there was actual violence. Most of them were overworked and underpaid, treating the residents more like burdens than human beings. Kelvin's mother learned quickly that survival here meant enduring everything in silence. At night, she lay on the thin mattress, listening to the sounds of madness echoing through the walls. She prayed constantly, not for herself, but for her son. "Lord," she whispered, "open his eyes. Let him see the truth before it's too late. I don't care what happens to me, but please don't let that woman destroy my child." Meanwhile, Kelvin and Nadia lived like royalty. He took her to Paris for a week, then to Dubai for shopping, then to the Maldives for relaxation. Nadia's Instagram account overflowed with pictures of herself in designer clothes, expensive restaurants, and luxury resorts. She had become the envy of every woman in Lagos. "Darling," she purred one evening as they sat on the balcony of their hotel suite overlooking the Indian Ocean, "I have never been happier in my life. You have given me everything I ever dreamed of." Kelvin smiled, watching her face glow in the sunset light. "You deserve it all, my love. You stood by me through difficult times. You changed for me, for us." Nadia kissed him softly, but behind her smile, her mind was already planning the next purchase, the next trip, the next way to drain his wealth for her own pleasure. But while they played in paradise, Kelvin's business empire began to crack. Board meetings were missed, important decisions were delayed, and key investors started to lose confidence. His company stocks dropped steadily, but Kelvin was too intoxicated by love and luxury to notice the warning signs. "Sir," his personal assistant called one morning while they were in Monte Carlo, "the board wants to schedule an emergency meeting. The Dubai contract fell through, and the shareholders are asking questions." Kelvin waved dismissively, not looking up from the breakfast table where Nadia was showing him jewelry catalogs. "Handle it, Johnson. I'm busy. Whatever they need, just figure it out." "But sir, this is serious." "I said handle it," Kelvin snapped, hanging up the phone. He turned back to Nadia with a smile. "Sorry about that, love. Business can wait. This is our time." Nadia beamed, but even she was beginning to notice the tension in his voice when business matters came up. However, as long as the money kept flowing, she didn't care about the source. Back at Sunset Haven, Kelvin's mother's health began to deteriorate. The stress, the poor food, and the constant harassment from unstable residents took their toll on her aging body. She developed a persistent cough that grew worse each day. Her appetite disappeared, and she became thinner and weaker. One morning, she collapsed while trying to reach the bathroom. Mrs. Johnson found her on the floor, breathing shallowly, her skin pale and cold. "Nurse, nurse!" Mrs. Johnson screamed, momentarily lucid in her panic. "The new lady is dying." Sister Grace rushed in, checked her pulse, and immediately called for an ambulance. As they loaded her onto the stretcher, she whispered through her pain, "Please, call my son. Tell Kelvin. We'll try to reach your family," the paramedic assured her, but she could barely hear his voice as darkness clouded her vision. The call came to Kelvin while he and Nadia were enjoying champagne on a yacht in the Mediterranean. The phone rang several times before he answered, annoyed at the interruption. "Mr. Kelvin," came the voice of the hospital administrator. "This is Lagos General Hospital. Your mother has been admitted. She's in critical condition. You need to come immediately." Kelvin's face went pale. Nadia looked up from her magazine, her expression shifting from annoyance to concern, not for the mother, but for how this might affect their vacation. "What's wrong, darling?" she asked, though she had heard enough to understand. My mother. She's in the hospital. They say it's serious." Kelvin stood up shakily, his champagne glass falling and shattering on the deck. Nadia's mind raced quickly. If they returned to Lagos now, it would ruin their trip, cost them money to change flights, and worst of all, it might bring Kelvin back under his mother's influence if she recovered. She stood up and placed her hands on his shoulders, her voice soft but persuasive. "Darling, I know you're worried, but think about this rationally. The old woman. She's been sick for a while, hasn't she? These things happen at her age. What can you really do by rushing back? The doctors are taking care of her." Kelvin looked at her in shock. "Nadia, she's my mother. She might be dying. And I understand that, my love. But consider this. Rushing back in panic won't change anything. If she's truly dying, then being there won't save her. If she's going to recover, she'll do so with or without you. But cutting short our time together, this perfect trip, that's a loss we can never get back." Her words wrapped around his heart like chains. She moved closer, pressing her body against his, her eyes filling with fake tears. "Please, darling, don't let guilt control you. We've worked so hard for this happiness. Your mother, she had her time with you. Now is our time, our season. Don't let her steal it from us, even from a hospital bed." Kelvin's breathing was heavy. His rational mind screamed that he should return immediately. But Nadia's influence had grown so strong, her manipulation so complete, that he began to doubt his own instincts. Maybe you're right," he whispered finally. "The doctors can handle it better than I can." Nadia smiled and kissed him deeply. "That's my wise man. Come, let's not let worry ruin our beautiful evening. Tomorrow we'll call the hospital for an update." That night, while Kelvin's mother fought for her life in a Lagos hospital bed, surrounded by strangers and machines, her son danced with another woman on a yacht deck under foreign stars. But time has a way of revealing all truths, and Kelvin's moment of reckoning was approaching faster than either he or Nadia could imagine. 3 weeks later, they returned to Lagos to find chaos waiting for them. The mansion felt different, colder, emptier, despite being filled with the same luxurious furniture. The staff moved nervously, whispering among themselves. "Welcome home, sir." Barber Toyin greeted them at the gate, but his face was grim. "Sir, there have been many calls, important people. They say it's urgent." Kelvin frowned, but Nadia distracted him quickly. "Come, darling, let's freshen up first. Business can wait a few more hours." But business would not wait. The next morning, Kelvin's phone rang continuously. His assistant Johnson finally reached him with news that shattered his world. "Sir, you need to come to the office immediately. The board held an emergency meeting. They voted you out as CEO." The words hit Kelvin like a physical blow. "What? That's impossible. I built this company from nothing." "Sir, the shareholders lost confidence. The missed meetings, the failed contracts, the declining stock prices, they blame your absence. They've appointed Mr. Davidson as interim CEO, and they're demanding an investigation into recent financial decisions." Kelvin's hand trembled as he held the phone. Nadia, overhearing the conversation, felt her first taste of genuine fear. "They can't do this to me," Kelvin whispered, but even as he said it, he knew they already had. That afternoon, he sat in what used to be his office, cleaning out his desk while security guards watched. The humiliation burned like acid in his veins. Colleagues who once bowed to him now avoided his eyes. His empire, built over decades, had crumbled in a matter of weeks. When he returned home, he found Nadia pacing the living room, her face twisted with anger. "How could you let this happen?" she screamed the moment he walked in. "You were supposed to be a billionaire. You promised me a life of luxury. Now what are we going to do?" Kelvin stared at her in shock. Where was the supportive, understanding woman who had comforted him just hours ago? "Nadia, I need your support now more than ever. We'll figure this out together. We still have assets, investments." but her response chilled him to the bone. She laughed bitterly, a sound like breaking glass. Together? You think I'm going to stay with a failure? I didn't sign up for poverty, Kelvin. I signed up for wealth, status, power. You've lost all of that. As the days passed, the full extent of Kelvin's downfall became clear. The company froze his accounts pending investigation. Creditors began calling in loans. The luxury cars were repossessed one by one. The mansion, mortgaged to fund their extravagant lifestyle, faced foreclosure. And with each loss, Nadia's mask slipped further. "Sell some of your jewelry," Kelvin pleaded one evening as they sat in the increasingly empty mansion. "Just temporarily, until I can rebuild." Nadia's eyes flashed with the old arrogance he hadn't seen since their early days together. "Sell my jewelry, the gifts you gave me?" "Never. These are mine, Kelvin. I earned them by putting up with your boring family drama and your pathetic mother." The words hit him like a slap. "My mother? Nadia, she's in the hospital. She might be dying, and you're worried about jewelry." "Your precious mother," she spat, standing up and towering over him with contempt. "Should have minded her own business from the beginning. She got what she deserved. And now you're getting what you deserve too." That night, Kelvin lay awake staring at the ceiling, Nadia's cruel words echoing in his mind. For the first time in months, he thought clearly about everything that had happened. The poisoned food at the dinner party, his mother's tears, the way Nadia always seemed to be there with the right words to turn him against his family. The next morning brought the final blow. The bank arrived to seize the mansion. As Kelvin watched his furniture being loaded onto trucks, Nadia appeared in the doorway dressed in her finest clothes, her jewelry sparkling in the sunlight. "Where are you going?" he asked quietly. She looked at him with disgust. "Away from you. I'm moving in with Richard Davidson. You remember him, don't you? Your replacement as CEO. He appreciates a woman like me." The betrayal hit him harder than losing everything else combined. "You're leaving me, after everything we've been through?" "Everything we've been through?" She laughed mockingly. "What we've been through is you being rich and me enjoying it. Now you're poor, and I don't do poor, darling." She walked closer, her voice dropping to a cruel whisper. "Did you really think I loved you? I loved your money. I loved your status. I loved what you could give me. But you? You're nothing without those things. Just a pathetic man who threw away his own mother for a woman who never cared about him." The neighbors had gathered to watch the spectacle, whispering and pointing as Nadia publicly humiliated the man who had given her everything. "You're worthless now, Kelvin," she announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Completely worthless. I wouldn't be seen with you on the street." She got into a luxury car, driven by her new benefactor, and drove away without looking back, leaving Kelvin standing alone among the ruins of his life. That evening, with nowhere else to go, Kelvin made his way to Lagos General Hospital. He walked through the corridors like a ghost, his head bowed in shame, until he found his mother's room. She lay in the bed, thin and frail, connected to machines that beeped softly in the quiet room. When she saw him, her eyes filled with tears, not of anger, but of love. "My son," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Kelvin collapsed beside her bed, weeping like a child. "Mama, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You were right about everything. I was blind. I was stupid. I threw you away for a woman who never loved me." His mother's weathered hand reached out to touch his face. "My child, a mother's love never dies. I forgave you before you even walked through that door. I have nothing left, Mama. No money, no house, no company. I lost everything chasing a dream that was really a nightmare." She smiled weakly. "You still have me. And sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters." As Kelvin wept in his mother's arms, across town, Nadia celebrated her new conquest. But pride, as they say, comes before the fall. And Nadia's fall was about to be more devastating than she could ever imagine. She attended party after party, drinking and dancing with reckless abandon. Her new wealthy boyfriend showered her with gifts, but she missed the thrill of manipulating Kelvin. The other rich men were harder to control, more experienced in dealing with women like her. One night, after a particularly wild party where she had drunk far too much champagne and flirted with several men, Nadia decided to drive home alone. Her new boyfriend had angered her by paying attention to another woman, so she stormed out in typical dramatic fashion. "I don't need any of you," she screamed as she got into her car, the same Range Rover that Kelvin had bought her. "I'm Nadia. I'm the Queen of Lagos." The engine roared to life, and she sped into the night, her vision blurred by alcohol and rage. The city lights streaked past her window like falling stars. She never saw the truck that ran the red light. The collision was devastating. Metal twisted and glass shattered as the two vehicles met with the force of destiny. When the paramedics arrived, they found Nadia trapped in the wreckage, her legs crushed beyond repair, her beautiful face scarred by shards of glass. At the hospital, doctors worked frantically to save her life. When she finally woke up 3 days later, the first thing she noticed was the absence of feeling in her lower body. "Doctor," she whispered through her pain, "my legs. I can't feel my legs." The surgeon's face was grim. "I'm sorry, the damage was too extensive. We had to amputate both legs to save your life. And the scarring on your face. Plastic surgery might help, but it will never be the same." The mirror they brought her showed a stranger, a broken, scarred woman whose beauty had been stolen in a single night of pride and recklessness. "No," she screamed, "this can't be real. This can't be happening to me." But it was real, and it was only the beginning of her punishment. Her wealthy boyfriend abandoned her immediately. The expensive gifts were reclaimed. The parties stopped inviting her. The world that had once bowed to her beauty now turned away in disgust and pity. She was moved to a small rehabilitation facility, sharing a room with other broken souls, learning to navigate the world from a wheelchair. The nurses were kind but busy, treating her like any other patient, not the queen she once believed herself to be. Alone in her narrow bed at night, Nadia finally understood the depth of her fall. She had destroyed a good man's life, separated a son from his mother, and built her empire on lies and manipulation. Now, with no legs to carry her pride and no beauty to open doors, she faced the consequence of every cruel word she had spoken. "God," she whispered into the darkness, "what have I done? What have I become?" But some realizations come too late, and some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Meanwhile, at Lagos General Hospital, Kelvin spent his days caring for his mother. He read to her, helped her eat, and listened to stories of his childhood that he had forgotten in his pursuit of wealth. Slowly, his mother's health improved. The love and attention she had been denied at the old people's home worked like medicine, healing her body and spirit. One day, as Kelvin sat beside her bed, she smiled mysteriously. "Son, I have something to tell you, something I've been saving for the right moment." She reached into her small bag and pulled out a worn bank book. Kelvin's eyes widened as he saw the numbers written inside. "Mama, where did you get this money?" "Over the years, I saved every penny I could," she explained. "I knew that pride would eventually destroy what you had built. I prepared for this day, hoping I would never need to use it. But now we can start again." The amount was modest, but sufficient, enough for a small house, a reliable car, and capital to begin a new business. It wasn't the empire Kelvin had lost, but it was hope. "We'll build something better this time," his mother said, squeezing his hand. "Something based on honesty, humility, and love. Something that no amount of pride or greed can destroy." As they planned their modest new beginning, Nadia lay in her hospital bed, staring at the ceiling and counting the cost of her arrogance. She had gained the whole world for a brief moment, only to lose her very soul. The rise and fall were complete. The proud had been humbled, the humble lifted up, and life had revealed its greatest lesson, that true wealth is not in what we possess, but in how we treat those we meet along the way. Do you think Nadia got what she truly deserved, or was her punishment too harsh? And what about Kelvin and his mother? Did you like how their story ended? Tell us in the comments below,